Welcome to EconoSphere, where we explore the complex forces shaping the global economy. Today, we're turning our attention to a nation often celebrated as an economic miracle, South Korea. For decades, South Korea has captured the world's imagination. Rising from the ashes of war in the 1950s, it transformed itself into a dynamic, modern powerhouse. Companies like Samsung, Hyundai, and LG became global household names, symbols of innovation and rapid development. This was a country that didn't just get rich, it wrote the playbook on how a determined nation could build prosperity from scratch. But what if this incredible success story is now facing its most significant test? Beneath the gleaming skyscrapers and bustling factories, economic challenges are mounting, raising questions about the sustainability of the very model that created this prosperity. Let's start with the raw numbers, because they paint a picture that's causing concern among economists and everyday Koreans alike. While the headlines might still talk about powerful global brands, the pace of economic growth has slowed considerably. Recent figures show growth dipping below 1%, and forecasts for the coming year have been revised downwards, sometimes significantly. A major factor in this slowdown is exports. For a country that built its wealth by selling goods to the world, a drop in export figures, reported to be around 10% recently, is a significant hit. This isn't just a minor fluctuation, it impacts everything from large manufacturers to the small businesses that supply them. But the challenges aren't just at the national level. Look closer, and you see pressure points affecting individual lives. Take household debt, for instance. South Korea has one of the highest levels of household debt globally. Think about it. Every minute, the total amount owed by families across the country rises by an estimated 100,000 US. This creates a heavy burden, limiting people's ability to spend and invest, which in turn stifles economic activity. Then there's the job market, particularly for young people. Despite a developed economy, finding stable employment is a struggle for many. The official youth unemployment rate hovers around 9%, but that number doesn't capture the full picture. Hundreds of thousands of young Koreans have, sadly, stopped looking for work or pursuing further education altogether. They've become discouraged by a system where fierce competition for limited corporate jobs means navigating a rigorous process of applications and interviews with uncertain outcomes. Many feel that even hard work doesn't guarantee a decent income, leading some to consider seeking opportunities abroad. When young, skilled people feel this disillusion, it's a red flag for any economy's future. This lack of opportunity translates directly into reduced consumer spending. If people are burdened by debt and uncertain about their job prospects, they naturally tighten their belts. Businesses feel the pinch, sometimes seeing revenues drop by 50% or more. It creates a difficult cycle. Fewer jobs mean less income, which means less spending, leading to businesses struggling, and so on. So, how did a country achieve such remarkable success only to face these kinds of deep-seated issues? The answer lies partly in the very system that drove the initial miracle. After the Korean War, the government made a strategic decision. They handpicked a few prominent families and provided them with significant support, loans, protection from competition, and resources. The deal was simple. Use these advantages to build massive companies that would industrialize the nation and compete globally. These family-controlled conglomerates are known as chaebols. And it worked spectacularly. Companies like Samsung, Hyundai, and LG grew into global giants, dominating industries and generating immense wealth for the nation. South Korea leapfrogged from being one of the world's poorest countries to being wealthier than many European nations. It was a masterclass in state-led development. However, the world has changed dramatically over the past 50 years, but the fundamental structure of the economy, heavily centered around these large chaebols, has largely remained the same. This concentration of power is immense. According to reports, the top 5 chaebol groups account for over half of the entire country's economic output. Imagine just 5 families controlling half the economic activity of a nation. Samsung's founding family alone controls over 70 different companies, spanning electronics, construction, finance, and more. It's almost like a separate economy operating within the country. While the chaebols were instrumental in the past, their sheer dominance now presents new challenges. Their vast resources and political connections can sometimes stifle competition, making it difficult for smaller, innovative companies to grow. Decision-making can remain concentrated within founding families, potentially hindering agility in a fast-changing global landscape. When a chaebol faces trouble, the ripple effects are felt across the entire economy. And despite occasional scandals or changes in leadership, the core power structure often remains firmly in place. Furthermore, critics argue that the chaebols have been slower to adapt to the next wave of global industries. While they are still powerhouses in manufacturing and hardware, areas like artificial intelligence, clean energy, and advanced biotechnology require different approaches, perhaps more agility and a less hierarchical structure than the traditional chaebol model. South Korea is actively trying to boost these sectors, but playing catch-up requires significant effort. Now, let's talk about a challenge that is perhaps the most profound and long-term: demographics. South Korea is facing a demographic cliff edge. It has the fastest aging population in the world and, critically, the world's lowest birth rate, currently sitting at an astonishingly low 0.72 births per woman. Think about the implications of this. By the year 2072, it's projected that almost half of South Korea's population will be over 65 years old. This is a dramatic shift in a relatively short period. What does this mean for the economy? Fewer young people entering the workforce means a shrinking labor pool. Fewer working-age people means a smaller tax base to support social services and healthcare for the elderly. Fewer people overall means less consumer demand in the future. The Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs predicts that the number of working people, those aged 15 to 64, could drop by nearly 19% between 2017 and 2037. This isn't just an economic problem, it's a fundamental challenge to the future structure of society. The South Korean government is acutely aware of these issues and has attempted various measures to stimulate the economy. They've cut interest rates, sometimes unexpectedly, bringing them down significantly from previous levels. They've passed large supplementary budgets, injecting trillions of Korean won, potentially amounting to tens of billions of US dollars, into the economy to boost exports, support vulnerable groups, and recover from external shocks. They've offered tax breaks to businesses and even provided direct cash assistance to families. They've also moved to lower the maximum legal interest rate to ease the burden on borrowers. More recently, following a period of political change, a new president took office in June of 2025. Lee Jae-myung assumed leadership facing what he described as a complex set of challenges. He has signaled intentions to reform the chaebol system and address the household debt crisis, even proposing measures like a debt amnesty for burdens accrued during challenging times like the pandemic. There are also plans to boost investment in future technologies like AI and manufacturing, and to undertake broader systemic reforms. However, initiating significant change in a system as deeply entrenched as South Korea's is incredibly difficult. The structure has been in place for decades, supported by powerful corporate interests, politicians, and established government institutions who may be resistant to fundamental shifts. Every attempt at major reform faces significant pushback. Why should any of this matter to you, no matter where you are in the world? Because South Korea's experience serves as a critical case study. Many other countries face similar challenges: aging populations, declining birth rates, and questions about the concentration of economic power. Look at Japan, which experienced its own economic miracle decades earlier. Japan has since grappled with what economists call the lost decades, a long period of slow growth compounded by an aging population. The parallels with South Korea's current demographic trends are striking, though South Korea's shifts are happening even faster. Unlike Japan in its earlier phase, South Korea may not have the same level of national savings to buffer against prolonged economic headwinds. China, which is also facing a rapidly aging population and navigating a transition away from purely export-led growth, is undoubtedly watching South Korea closely. European countries struggling with low birth rates and the economic implications are also paying attention. Even countries like the United States, which have debates about the influence of large tech corporations, can find lessons in the dynamics of the chaebol system. Beyond being a cautionary tale or case study, South Korea's economic health has tangible global impacts. As a major player in critical global supply chains, particularly for semiconductors, South Korea produces an estimated 70% of the world's memory chips. Any instability there can affect technology prices and availability worldwide. They are also leaders in shipbuilding, steel production, and electric vehicle batteries, all industries vital to the global economy. When one of the world's top 10 economies faces significant challenges, the effects ripple outwards. This is compounded by the current global environment, marked by trade tensions, inflationary pressures, and efforts by countries to reshape their supply chains after recent disruptions. South Korea's struggles are happening at a time when the global economy is particularly sensitive to shocks. So, where does this leave us? South Korea built its extraordinary success on a specific model, leveraging a dedicated workforce, excelling in exports, and empowering large industrial conglomerates. For a long time, this model delivered unprecedented prosperity. But the world has evolved, and the strains on this model are becoming increasingly apparent. South Korea is now at a critical juncture. It faces a stark choice: undertake potentially painful and complex reforms to adapt its economic system to new global realities and demographic pressures, or risk becoming a cautionary example of what happens when a successful model fails to evolve. What we're witnessing isn't necessarily a sudden collapse, but rather the difficult process of an economic structure needing to fundamentally change to secure its future. The factories are still producing, and the companies are still operating, but the underlying economic landscape is shifting dramatically. What do you think? Can South Korea successfully navigate these challenges and reinvent its economic model? Or are we witnessing a turning point for one of the most celebrated economic success stories of the past century? And what lessons does this hold for other countries facing similar demographic and economic pressures? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this exploration insightful, please consider subscribing to EconoSphere and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss our future deep dives into the economic forces shaping our world. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.